shorter series. I'm going to try to keep this video on a shorter end. So let's quickly start with the article 2. Right, we have already discussed a lot of tips and the article 1 in the previous videos. Please watch that if you haven't. Now starting with the article 2, let's read the first line, which is there should be sovereign equality for all the members. The keyword I want you to focus here is called sovereign. Sovereign or sovereignty refers to a state's ability to govern itself. Now basically why I'm putting emphasis on this word is because on the basis of this one word, right, you can raise something called a right of reply or a right to reply. Again, what happens here is, suppose the delegate of an XYZ country starts giving their GSL or any mod speech, right, and they go on to blabbering about something about your country and they go on to criticizing you. Okay, number one here, please do not take it on your personal ego. Second, stay calm and actually write down. Okay, or you can even ask for a repetition here if you could not note down every single thing that the person has said. Okay, so you get up after their speech, you raise your placard, the chair recognizes you, and you get up and say that the delegate of XYZ has quoted this, which has hurt our sovereignty or sentiments in this following view. You have to drive and actually explain how that statement given by the delegate of XYZ has hurt your sovereignty. Again, sovereignty is the ability to govern itself, the way that it actually proves your point. A mere comment on your country's failure to comply or anything cannot be eligible for a right to reply or a right of reply. It should hurt your sentiments. Moreover, it should hurt your sovereignty in one way or another. On that note, we'll move forward. And wait. One question I feel that will arise here is that when Article 2 mandates sovereign equality for all the members, then why is there something like a P5 existing, right? Okay. Again, I think I was very clear about the fact that United Nations is going to be biased again towards those 5 countries. But a very famous answer to this question stands as that the United Nations wanted the global powers to participate and have their autonomy preserved so that they don't clash with each other, because when two powerful economies decide that they want to clash, there's a lot of harm and impact that goes on to the world. Now, wrapping that up, let's move forward. So, okay. Reading this line, all members will refrain from using threat or force against territorial integrity or political independence or in any other manner inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations. Okay, this line which I've highlighted is going to be very, very good for you because the purposes of the United Nations are very wide, right? So there's maintaining peace, there's equality, there's a lot of philosophical contents that are the purposes of the United Nations. Now, what I want you to do is, if you want to actually, prove a point or criticize any country, this point can help you there, because you can argument towards the fact that what the delegate of XYZ country has done is inconsistent with the purposes of the United Nations, right? So you can even say that, them airstriking is inconsistent with the United Nations because it does not promote peace building. Obviously, airstrike is a big thing and there are a lot of documents for that, but in this case, just for the Article 2, this line is pretty vague, and what is vague is going to be very good for you as a delegate because you can actually add a lot of things in it. Right, now moving forward, this line of the states which are not the member of the United Nations, which is Vatican City, also known as the Holy See and Palestine. I just want you to hear that because this is mentioned in the article, and it also tells you about the fact that Vatican City and Palestine are not actual members of the United Nations. Right. Moving on to point of force not being defined subjectively. Okay, force in this line, all members will refrain from using threat or force, only refers to armed attacks, not anything else. That is one thing. And okay, a general point I want to note here is, see, when you're clear about things, right, suppose you're very clear about the fact that force in the Article 2 of the United Nations Charter cannot be defined subjectively. If a delegate goes on to providing an argument that, just scatters the definition of force way away from armed attack or something, that is where you can actually stand up and criticize them, right? And why this point will actually generally help you a lot is, see, when somebody wants to convince you about something, right, they want to drive you towards a propaganda, they're going to speak a lot. What you are supposed to do is find the gist of it, find the main point and let the rest go. Even I believe you'd seen that experienced delegate usually take their POIs to a longer end, right? They note so many violations, they go on to telling this whole story. And one thing this practice does overall is it overwhelms you, right? Number one, they're going to speak very fast, they're going to gobble up some of their words, and number 3, they're going to actually tell you like you've literally violated 15 articles. Okay, now here, never be overwhelmed by the content, by the amount of words a delegate is speaking. get the gist of it, recognize what the main point of that question is. Remember that they're only going to be marked on the main point, and you're only going to be marked when you actually, get the main point of it. Again, here, even if you touch the circumference of the of that question, even if you answer it in a vague way, you're still going to get marks. So please try and answer your questions verbally. Okay, now coming on to the literal glamour point of this article, which is really, really important. So I really wanted to just put an emphasis here. Right. There's no absolute sovereignty. What does that mean is international law will always and always override domestic law. Where this actually functions is, okay, a lot of many times when an argument between two delegates reaches a saturation point, or even just a point where the delegate that is trying to defend themselves, right, cannot go on to defending themselves because the delegate that is criticizing has reached that very main point and has been able to prove their argument very effectively, they often tend to take the Article 2 of, and quote that nothing contained in this present charter shall authorize the United Nations to intervene in matters which are essentially within the domestic jurisdiction of any state. Right. Whenever an argument reaches a point of saturation, domestic jurisdiction or state autonomy comes into a lot of light. And even just one remark about, that suppose the delegate goes on to saying that, we have state autonomy to do some things that, are not consistent with international law or something like that. That is why you can criticize them. But for that because United Nations does grant them their domestic autonomy, right? But how can you criticize them in a very systematic way is, let's read this example. So if India is criticized on its rape cases, it can say that criminal law enforcement, okay, I'll take just one moment here. Right, criminal law enforcement, how do you get to know what is legal or not legal in a country? Obviously one is the constitution, right? It can tell you a lot of things about the country, but another thing I really, really want you to start exploring is the penal code of the country, and you're gonna get it on Google as well. So suppose you're allotted any country, right? Start going through their penal code and start looking for articles that are actually, important for your agenda. Right, moving forward. And so the United Nations cannot condemn, but if the delegate can prove that the violations are systematic, state-enabled, and will violate other treaties, UN can win by criticizing and investigating and recommending reforms. Okay, there was a bit of grammatical error and 2 errors in that line, but sure, let's move forward. Okay, this is one thing that you can really, really do to increase the quality of your POIs. Okay, you find this one case in a country, right, which is this very, very, oh my goodness, such a good case. Again, not being insensitive at a point, but as a delegate you find something that you can criticize very well, right? That is what I meant by that point, because the delegates can be vague, right? Again, they will be marked vaguely on their vague replies, but if you talk about just that one case, you say that this happened in your country with this girl of that age, this is so wrong, the delegate can go on to saying that the government is working towards it. It's one case, and again, it's just one case. But when you take that one case, see, when one wrong thing happens, right, it's because of a lot of things that are wrong. It's because maybe there's a law that is not made for it, or maybe there's a law that's so vague that it does not actually target that particular case. It's because the enforcement is not good, or it's because of something societal or something economical, and a lot of things which are controlled by policies, policies are then executed, and maintained by the government itself. So that is why you should just scatter your question. Say that this happened in your country to this girl of that age, right? And this happened due to this legal loophole, this law that states this, and it does not cover this factor, right? You can actually question their thinking to be such narrow and not wide, causing such cases to happen. And when you do that, you will be able to, get a good POI and criticize them. One more thing I would like to mention here is that I want you to frame your POIs because you genuinely want to know the answer. Again, I know it's very fun to roast and toast each other in the community, but when it actually comes to POIs, keep your framing less of a criticism, more of an actual question, okay? Like, there should be an answer. It shouldn't be just blatant, criticism on them. A POI is then, it's literally a question, so let it be a question. Right, again, if you could just pause the video and read all of this, I would be very grateful because there's a lot to read. I covered this pro tip here, so I am going to move forward. again, quickly wrapping up the Article 4 here, it talks about how can, if there's a new state that wants to be a member of the United Nations, how will it be admitted into the United Nations. The highlighted line in the judgment of the organization, why I wanted to tell you that is because, right, this was confirmed in the judgment of the organization, right? So again, basically why I highlighted this is because this line was confirmed by the ICJ in the 1948 advisory opinion that SC and General Assembly, Security Council and General Assembly cannot add political conditions beyond those mentioned in the Article 4. Right, but the Charter does not limit the vote. What does this mean? Okay. ICJ is International Court of Justice, right? So it's judiciary on an international level. Security Council and General Assembly cannot add political conditions. Suppose there's a country that wants to enter, right? And suddenly General Assembly goes on or the Security Council goes on to saying that you have to be this to enter, which is a condition that was not mentioned before, right? This is something they cannot do. But when a country is actually admitted into the United Nations, there is a voting that happens. That is where the P5, basically the Charter not limiting the vote here means that the P5 can actually veto that recommendation or motion that is going on. How this works is, so if a new state wants to get into the United Nations, the SC has to issue a recommendation to the GA first, and then the GA will vote. Right, in the Security Council, like I mentioned before, there's something called a P5, which are 5 countries that hold power. These are the permanent members, and then there are non-permanent members as well. Now, what does veto mean here? Alright, okay. Now here 2 more concepts come of substantive matter and a procedural matter. I believe I will be explaining these just literally in the next video, so I will be leaving this point for later. But basically what veto means is that these 5 permanent members, even if suppose Russia goes on to saying no, right? If Russia says no, then the other 10 non-permanent members and all the votes, basically there won't be a recommendation issued because Russia vetoed or Russia said no, right? And judicial review and everything will also be mentioned in the next video. With that, I think we're done for today, and yes, thank you for listening to me. Just an insight, we're going to discuss the SC veto Article 5 and a lot of important things in the next video, so I want you to stay tuned. And yes, I hope I was able to give you a good explanation. If not, please drop down your queries and any part of the video that you did not understand in the comments down below. And with that, we'll end this video right now. Bye bye everybody.